الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال مولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام ومثلي لا يبايع مثله. صدق مولانا الإمام الحسين عليه السلام. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I bid you all assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we continued from yesterday's analysis that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam had an antagonist facing him, just as every good human being did. Every story is comprised of a protagonist and an antagonist. And the antagonist within the time of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam was indeed twofold. Firstly, Muawiyah, which we dissected yesterday, you agree? And today, which is Yazid ibn Muawiyah. That wherever there was a Hussain, there was a Yazid. Wherever there was a good, there was a batil. So this is the first reason why we want to look at the clash that existed in history between Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam and between Yazid ibn Muawiyah. That's the first reason. The second reason why we need to look at the fight and the clash between the son of Fatima and between the son of Hind and Yazid ibn Muawiyah is because we need to realize what happened before Karbala so that Karbala is put in context. Many times people come in and ask the question, yes, Karbala, we understand it, yet why in God's name did Hussein go to Karbala in the first place? That in itself is an analysis. Yet one of the two best paths to take to understand why Yazid went to Karbala is by understanding his problems with Muawiyah, which we did yesterday, and understanding his problems with his son Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Therefore, for these two reasons, we want to look at the clash between Yazid and between Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, what it was consisted of, and what happened between them. That firstly, we know Muawiyah prepared the ground heavily before Yazid came into power. Muawiyah, first part of his life was what? Establishing himself. Yet he dedicated much of his life to establish his son's authority as well. Now, why did he do this? Firstly, because Muawiyah was blinded by his love towards his son. Give me your attention on these vital points. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muawiyah had undescribable love for his son Yazid. You know why? For two reasons, or two examples which shows to us his love which blinded him for his son. The first reason is because of Sa'id ibn Uthman. Sa'id comes and says that Muawiyah would one day come to the people and he would tell them that if Ghutta, meaning the green area which was a part of Damascus, a beautiful area, he would say if Ghutta was filled with people much better than Yazid, I would never give authority to anyone other than my son. Meaning Muawiyah was very clearly one who followed nepotism, saying if there's anybody better than my son, I still don't care. Secondly, Muawiyah would make unbelievably interesting lines. You know what he would say? He would say, if Yazid, or he would say, the worst sin I'm making and I'm going to be held before Allah for is appointing my son as the caliph. Meaning Muawiyah knew very well of the disease of his son, yet he says, I know Allah will punish me for this, yet what can I do? I'm blinded by his love. It's for this reason, you'll notice, that Muawiyah worked heavily to prepare the ground to establish his son. What did he do firstly? He used poets, namely three. 3 poets which Muawiyah would give large amounts of money so that they come and they spread the love of Yazid ibn Muawiyah to the masses. For example, you have the poet who would, by the name of the poet who would come, Ahwas, he would come and he would recite the following lines of poetry. O Yazid, you are indeed the follower of the religion of Musa and Muhammad. You are the sharpest of swords and no one can defeat you. Well, if you ask me, he wasn't even a butter knife, but he says you were the sharpest of swords. In other words, that's the first poet. Second poet would come and say what? You are higher than the mountains. The Tigris and Belkis come to you. You are upon the authority of this world. Other poets would come and say, indeed, you are superior to everyone, like the birds flying above the sky. Poet by the name of Al-Miskeen. And indeed, he was Miskeen. He would come and he would what? He would describe poetry about Yazid ibn Muawiyah. That's the first way he would try to establish his son's authority. A second way which he would try to establish the authority of his son is by paying large amounts of money. He would give Abdullah ibn Umar thousands of dirahim so that he can be a follower of who? And he can pay allegiance to Yazid, and indeed he did. Many historical accounts come and say that Abdullah ibn Umar paid allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. On a third level, he would gather support from many of his followers and make conferences to pay allegiance to Yazid. Dhahak ibn Qais, Abdullah ibn Madasa. You had, for example, other Abdullahs who were there with him. So 6 or 7 individuals in which he would gather so that they can pay their allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Until one day Muawiyah said, I need to make a conference. So what did he do? He brought forward a conference and he brought these people and he told them, stand up each one of you and show your love to Yazid ibn Muawiyah, to boost the morale of Yazid, to tell them there are people behind you. It's not just me, your father. Yes, of course, that conference failed and it failed miserably. History tells us that conference indeed was a fail. So what did Muawiyah do? Muawiyah realized after he would butter people up with his money, after he would try to plant the love of his son through poetry, through conferences, through people paying allegiance, standing up and showing their allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he saw all of this didn't work. So what did he do? He said, I have to go to Medina. Yazid leaves Syria. He goes where? He goes to Medina. Upon his arrival to Medina, brothers and sisters, he makes a meeting, a special and a secret meeting with who? With the 4 Abadila, as they're referred to. The 4 Abdullahs. Ibn Zubair, Ibn Umar, Ibn Uthman, and Abdullah, the relative of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. 4 Abadila in which he would bring under the umbrella. And he would tell them, keep in mind, don't tell Hassan and Hussein about this secret meeting. He made it very clear. He told them, don't invite Hassan and Hussein to this meeting. Why Muawiyah? Because Muawiyah knew if the news reached Hassan and Hussein, then indeed the Ummah would not be deceived by the moves of Muawiyah. He said, maybe I can pull some strings and push some buttons with the 4 Abdullahs, but as for Hassan and Hussein, I can't deceive them as they are the sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib. I can't mess around with these 2 individuals. Therefore, he brought the 4 Abadila. Little did he know, even the students of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the students of Imam al-Hussein were a full plate for him to eat. He would bring Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubair ibn Uthman. 4 of them, he would tell them, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Of course, Muawiyah was very good at mentioning the name of Allah. And that's why many people until today, they say, Abdullah Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, the servant of Allah. Muawiyah would stand up, he would tell them, indeed, I am going to leave the world very soon. And I want you all to give bay'ah to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. If you're wondering why I didn't tell Hassan and Hussein, it's for no reason. I'm very fond of them and fond of their family members. Yet please give your bay'ah to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Of course, he was very keen in other places on using intimidation. Never did he use intimidation in this instance because he wanted to win their hearts over. He would begin until all of the 4 stand up and show their unmovable love for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. One by one, Abdullah ibn Umar, he stands up, he says, never will we give our bay'ah to you, O son of Abu Sufyan. Upon, as one would say, drift away from the bay'ah towards Abu Abdullah, Ibn Zubair, of course, Ibn Uthman, all four of them stand up and they show their unmovable love toward Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Of course, Muawiyah had a mini heart attack because he says, even if I give these people the best of lectures and use my most deceiving of methods, it's not going to bring them on board. What can I do? I can do nothing except go back to my place in Syria. Muawiyah prepares the grounds until his last breath, and to his best of abilities, Muawiyah gets sick and he's on his deathbed getting ready to leave the world. He tells him, Yazid, come to me. Let me tell you a few things before I leave this world. He gives him advice, about 2 pages of advice, until he tells him, I'm not afraid for you of anyone from Quraysh except for these 4 individuals. He mentioned the Abadila, Ibn Zubair, Ibn Uthman, and Ibn Umar, all 4 of them. He tells him, as for the first one, be careful from his moves, and he would go into detail into what he can do. As for the second one, be careful from this. When he comes to Imam al-Hussein, of course, when he comes to Ibn Zubayr, he says, don't worry about Ibn Zubayr, he's nothing to be afraid of. Be careful of Ibn Umar, he's like a fox, he's tricky. As for Hussein, the people of Iraq want to expel him anyways. Yet he is the grandson of Rasulullah, and people love him. Therefore, if you gain authority above Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, I'm telling you, oh Yazid, win him over, don't lose him. Muawiyah had something in his brain. Yazid had some elevator music playing in his brain. He, of course, would come and he would say, I obey you, O my father. I will not mess with Hussein. Muawiyah knew, if you poke Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the whole world will turn against you. Muawiyah knew this. Hence, he was very smart in dealing with Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. He wouldn't just stand up and wage war against him. He was smart in knowing how to deal with the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, because he knew the ummah is with them, the spiritual anarchy is with them. In other words, everybody is with them. Don't mess with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Muawiyah dies. Yazid was in a place known as Al-Thunayn, where he was hunting. Muawiyah dies. Dhahak ibn Qais, the Wali al-Ahd, you can say the vice president of Muawiyah, sends a letter to Yazid. He tells him, oh Yazid, your father has died and you have received Khilafah. Hadith come and say he comes with thick hair, with the dust of hunting still on his face, yes? He would come and he would begin to go up on the minbar. They tell him, oh Yazid, give us your first lecture of what? Of your royalty, the first royal address as it's referred to. Yazid goes up there and he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salam ala Muhammad, until he says, indeed Allah does what he likes and he doesn't do what he doesn't like, until he tells them, and indeed I have been chosen as the caliph. I neither apologize for my ignorance, nor ask Allah to give me more knowledge. Of course, the people were shocked. They're saying, what are you talking about? His first address, neither did he give us his political plans, nor did he give us his agenda for his leadership. People realized that this was going to be some black pages, just as they realized upon the first address of third caliph, that these are going to be black pages in Islamic history. He goes up there, and then Muawiyah, of course, taught him that if there's anybody that challenges you, then I need you to subdue them instantly. Of course, when he told him this, he told him there's one exception, which is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Therefore, don't do such things with Abu Abdullah. He goes up and he sees the people of Medina. He doesn't have the full support of the people of Medina. What does he say? He says, I must remove that one thorn that's in my path, which is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So what does he do? He sends a letter instantly to who? To Walid ibn Utbah, where in Medina. He tells him, oh Walid, I need you to ask bay'ah from Abdullah ibn Umar and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. If they don't respond to you affirmatively, kill them instantly and get rid of them. Walid is thinking to himself, Muawiyah couldn't get rid of Abu Abdullah. You want me to kill him that quickly by cutting his head off? I can't do such a thing. So he would do what? He would send a letter to Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who the advisor. Marwan had the coldest of hearts. So he said, let's see what Marwan has to say. Does he agree with what Yazid told me to do? He would tell him, oh Marwan, Yazid ibn Muawiyah sent me the letter telling me to get rid of Abu Abdullah and Ibn Umar if they deny of giving me allegiance. Do you agree what would he reply? He would say, Wallah, if it was in my hands, I would cut their heads off before even asking them for bay'ah. So if you want, do the following, and if they don't, kill them. Marwan bin Hakam, Walid, if you want to compare Walid, the lesser evil was Walid ibn Utbah. Walid told him, I can't do such a thing. Don't forget, this is the remains of the progeny of Fatima to Zahra. Yes, Walid had some drops of innocence in his character. Marwan tells him, they are the ones who killed Uthman. They are the ones who fought Abu Sufyan. Don't forget, O Walid. Yes, he tells him, what's your advice? He says, kill them. They send a letter to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, summoning him to come to the palace to give bay'ah. They send a letter to the Imam. Imam alayhi salam receives the news of Walid ibn Utbah and Marwan ibn al-Hakam wanting him to come. Ibn Zubayr comes to him. He tells him, Oh Imam, I worry that you go to the palaces of such individuals. We can't place our trust in their hands. He would say, yes, but I believe that Muawiyah has died, and I believe that they want us to give bay'ah. What does the Imam do? Imam goes back to his house, he washes his blessed body, he prays to Allah Azza wa Jal, and then he heads towards Medina with his cousins and with his family members, lest something erupts. He takes his family members, he goes, he reaches the palace. They come to him, they tell him, we send you the condolences of the death of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He has left this world. Imam tells him, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Until he tells him, why is it that you called me? He said, we've called you so that you can give bay'ah to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Yazid becomes the caliph. Imam, of course, needed to pend the situation a bit further. So he told him, I'll give bay'ah, yes, but I'll give it in public, not in private. When have I been one to give bay'ah in private? I give bay'ah in public. He told him, no worries, we'll come back tomorrow. Marwan comes to him and tells him, Walid, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Hussein, if he was to leave, never are you going to see him again. Bring him back and make him do bay'ah, even if we have to kill him. I don't know, Marwan forgot Hussein was standing there the whole time. Imam al-Hussein turns to him and he makes the most powerful lines within the whole incident of Karbala. Give me your attention on this crucial point. He gives him the most important statement, and this statement is the core of Karbala. Core of Karbala, if you ask me, in my opinion, is not talab al-islah. This statement, there is no more statement, yes? That is more filled with firmness, filled with strength, and filled with what? Non-conformism than this statement of the Imam alayhi salam. He turns to Marwan, he glances at him. He looks at him in the eyes and he tells him, Marwan, ayyuha al-amir, O prince, inna ahlu bayt al-nubuwah. وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة بنا فتح الله وبنا ختم ويزيد فاجر فاسق قاتل للنفس معلن بالفسق والفجور ومثلي لا يبايع مثله. What did he tell him? He told him, O prince, let me remind you who's standing before you. We are the family of prophethood. وموضع الرسالة, we're the originality of the message. To us angels come up and to us angels go down. We are the origin of Allah, His mercy. With us Allah has opened and with us Allah will close. That's us. Let me tell you who Yazid is. And Yazid is a immodest, indecent, one who kills the innocent soul, one who is public in his sins, drinker of alcohol. And then he makes a fundamental statement which is the basis of this whole lecture. And man like me will never give a bay'ah to a man like him. Imam makes that statement, and I need you to pay close attention to the wording of the Imam. He said, a man like me will never give bay'ah to a man like him. You agree? From this statement, we need to realize what are the lessons that can be extracted from that one statement. Because I believe that the core of Karbala is found in that statement. You agree? I will never give bay'ah to him. Imam could have shook his hand and said, you know, Allah, you are right, let's for the sake of unity, like many people say today, for the sake of unity, for the sake of unity. Imam makes a clear statement that unity is different than what? Than compromising. Some people believe unity means to compromise, to put all of the principles you've learned as a child under your armpit, and to shake the hand of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. No. Unity is one thing. Compromising is a different world. Compromising is something that Shaitan does. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he showed us in many situations, you can unite, but don't compromise. Uniting for the sake of tolerance, for the sake of respect, for the sake of the state of the ummah, that's one thing. But to compromise your principles, Imam alayhi salam tells him, I will never give bay'ah to a man like him. Now we need to see, what are the lessons that can be extracted from that statement of the Imam alayhi salam? Namely four. Let me tell you them before the loudest of your salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first statement Imam alayhi salam makes, he says the following. The first thing that can be extracted from this statement is what? That the message is always bigger than the messenger. Give me your attention, please. This is the core of the analysis. And inshallah, we can once again close the fan. Thank you very much. The first lesson is that Imam alayhi salam makes it clear that the message is never smaller than the messenger. The message is always bigger than the messenger. You with me? What does this mean? You can never give yourself for something if you don't see it bigger than yourself. The reason why you come to the majlis and you put everything on the side is because you see Hussain bigger than you. Yes? And Hussain is meant to be bigger than you. If he wasn't bigger than you, then problems begin to happen. What do I mean problems begin to happen? You know what's one of the biggest diseases of culture? Culture has unbelievable benefits. And Allah allowed culture to be what? A form of expression of your beliefs. You agree? One disease of culture is what? And give me attention on this vital point. One disease of culture is what? Besides us elevating to the great status of the Imam, I said Imam is meant to be bigger than you. Why? So that you can try to strive towards being bigger by striving towards him. Yes? If the Imam was smaller than you, there's no room for improvement for you. Yes or no? Imam is meant to be bigger so that you are always becoming better and bigger and learning in your life as well. Culture comes in and says what? Many people today, besides him elevating to the status of the son of Fatima, he says, you know what? It doesn't mesh with my cultural standards. What am I going to do? I'm going to minimize and make Hussain smaller to fit my understanding. You know, today you go to some Christian churches and you see there's a black Jesus, there's a Chinese Jesus, there's what else? There's a white Jesus, there's a brown Jesus, there's a purple Jesus. There's all the rainbows have been filled, salamullah alayhi wa Isa alayhi salam. We laugh at them. You come in, you go into some masajid. With all due respect, I say it, and this is maybe out of innocence, maybe simply because they want Hussain to be theirs. Everybody wants something to be theirs. It's human nature. Yeah, you go, you see the Iranian Hussain. Very good, alhamdulillah. Maybe that's the only Hussain that exists. You go to the Iraqi masjid. Hussain has become from Baghdad. Alhamdulillah, no worries. You go to some other masjid. Hussain, maybe, I don't know, his eyes have been extended. He has been born in Asia, possibly. That you see what begins to happen. We begin to culturalize Hussain besides Hussainifying our lives. You like that one? Besides cultural, before what? Before making our lives Hussaini, we make Hussain standardized to our culture. Customized Hussain. We love the customized Hussain nowadays. That today you go into one culture, which is all fantastic, yet there's a problem in there that needs to be explained. You go into one culture, all you hear about Hussain is the bravery of Hussain. You go to another culture, all you hear is about the intellectual aspects of Hussain. One of the main purposes of this series, I humbly say, is that we're trying to give different colors of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. Why? So we realize Hussain is for everyone, yes? That how many times many have made fantastic points. When you see Gandhi speaking about Hussain, when you see Mandela speaking about Hussain, when you see somebody such as Charles Dickens speaking about Hussain, what did they see? They realized that Hussain isn't a part of their culture, but that they can always be a part of Hussain. There's a big difference between the two. They said, Hussain, yes, isn't a part of me. Yeah, I am always and will always be a part of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain. You know what that Christian man, Paul al-Salama, said? He said, don't say Ali ibn Abi Talib just for the Shi'i. Every man who loves justice is a Shi'i of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And why do we love Hussain? Why does the non-Muslim connect with Abu Abdullah al-Hussain? Tell me. Because Hussain, today you have the Brahmin Hindus, you have, for example, in Nigeria you have the blacks, you have all across the world, non-Muslims, Christians who come and mourn. You know why? Because they learn. There was once a man who lives here in London, Sayyid Muhammad Musawi, may Allah bless him, in the UK. He says he once went and visited the Pope. He went to the Vatican, he visited the Pope, he looks at the books. Look at how everybody learns from Hussain. He goes into the book library and he sees that there is a book about Hussain in the Vatican. True story. He takes the book, he asks, why is there a book of Hussain around here? I don't understand. This is a church, we're not in Najjar, Karbala, we're in Vatican, we're in Rome, Italy. He replies, he tells him, look the reply. He tells him, because Islam was kept alive through the blood of Hussain, we want to know how to keep Christianity alive through the blood of Jesus, learning from the blood of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain. Allahu Akbar. Meaning Hussain has become what? He has become a universal element. When I say that, number one, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, the message is always bigger than the messenger. Why? Because we're meant to elevate to Hussain. We're not meant to bring down Hussain to us. Please, brothers and sisters, take it from me if you don't take it from anyone else. It's a logical message. Let us not be ones who compact and minimize Abu Abdullah to our own standards. No, Hussain was meant, and you have many beautiful initiatives that are who is Hussain.org and all of these beautiful initiatives which are trying. When we spoke about the other day, blood and organ donating, what is the point of these kinds of discussions? Is to show that Hussain is for everyone, and he's not only for a certain select group of people. He came as his grandfather, as a mercy to all of mankind. Last time I read the verse, it says, إِنَّمَا بَعَثْنَا رَحْمَةً تُهُ رَحْمَةً لِلشِّيعَةِ. No, that's not what it said. Maybe, I don't know if you have Quran that says that. The true Quran doesn't say that. رَحْمَةً لِلْهُ Khoja, I promise you that's not what it says. As much as we would love it, رَحْمَةً لِلشِّيعَةِ, no, رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. In other words, yes, he came as a mercy to the whole world, just as his grandfather, Rasulullah. In other words, number one, the message is always bigger than the messenger. Imam said, I will never give bay'ah to you if I have to die. So the message stays alive, then so be it. What's the Imam saying? I would rather, and give your attention on this vital line. If you take anything, memorize this, please. I would rather give my neck in death than my hand in bay'ah. Yes? I would rather give my neck death rather than giving my hand in bay'ah. That the Imam alayhi salam, on that first level, what is he trying to show? That the message is always bigger than the messenger. Allah could have chose Islam to die or Hussain to die. He chose that Hussain dies, and it was that death that kept Islam alive. Yes? In other words, Allah came and said that one of these two can leave. I will never allow the religion to die. Imam alayhi salam makes the fundamental point when he himself says alayhi salam, if the religion of Muhammad would never stay alive unless through my death, then O swords, take me away. What's the Imam saying? What I'm saying is that if I have to be one who separates my limbs so that the religion cannot be separated, then so be it, yes. If this neck has to separate from this body so that the ummah doesn't separate from the religion, then so be it. If this is what it takes, then I'm very happy and welcoming and excited to do it. Imam was seen reciting poetry in his last moments. He enjoyed it, yes? In other words, the message is always bigger than the messenger. That's the first thing. Now, when the message is bigger than the messenger, yes, then can you sacrifice? Imam alayhi salam sacrificed in what way? He sacrificed through himself. If I have to die so the religion stays alive, then so be it. He sacrificed through his properties, taking everything he had in Medina. He sacrificed through what? Through his women. Yesterday we touched upon the women idea. Why did he take his women? There are two other reasons which we didn't touch upon yesterday. Firstly, so that they aren't imprisoned. Yazid would have imprisoned the women if they weren't taken with him, and he imprisoned many. The wife of Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was imprisoned. Many other females were imprisoned. He took his females for the first reason. Why? So that they're not imprisoned. That's the first reason. Secondly, so they can record what happened. Much of what we know is because of what the females told us in Karbala. Meaning that second reason is so that they know what happened and they record it. Because if you're going to leave what happened to who? To the enemies of Islam, then not as much history today is false because it's written by non-Muslims. And I think it's a beautiful chance to say it's about time we have Muslims teaching Islam in universities. Hussain Nasr, may Allah bless him, he wrote fantastic, about 500 articles and 50 books. Man who's known for going into Gnosticism. He's an academic, he teaches in, I believe, George Washington University. he goes up there in Ann Arbor where I go to school. He went up one day, he came to the university, everyone was excited to see him. He goes up and he speaks. He says that we need to learn from the Jews. People are shocked. What do you mean we need to learn from the Jews? We need to learn from the Jews that whenever they had a child, they always did what? They had one going to law, they had one going to Islamics, into, for example, dentistry, they had one going to engineering. They always dedicated one Jewish child to go into Judaic studies. Today, you go into any university, I challenge you, you will never find a Christian or a Muslim teaching Judaic studies. Allahu Akbar. Why do you think that is? It's not a coincidence. Because they know that if we want to give the impression of Judaism that we, the Jews, want, we're not going to allow Muslims to take the steering wheel or non-Muslims or a Christian. No. He says we need to be the same thing. How many Muslims do we have? I go to Ann Arbor, you know, Alhamdulillah, and you have what? You have a Jewish man teaching you Islamic studies. And wallah, we wouldn't mind if he was teaching the correct Islam. He goes up there and he says stuff like, the Prophet didn't perform miracles, you know. For example, like slavery is a part of Islam. I raise my hand, I tell him, excuse me, Mr. Professor, I know the grade is in your hand, but what can I do? Question, why do you say that, you know, was slavery a Muslim thing, or was it an Islamic thing? What do you mean Muslim or Islamic thing? He drank a sip of water. I told him, Islamic is that it's part of Islam. You agree? Muslims is that Muslims did it. He said, you know, that's a good point. Next day he begins his lecture. Islamic is different than Muslims. Thank you very much, Professor. I had an 18-email debate with him, and I don't say this to promote myself. I would have went further, but you know, I was afraid for my grade. I would like to pass the class. That was a joke. In other words, there are what? What's the point? He would take his females, yes? So that they record what happens. You don't have the enemy of Ahlul Bayt recording. We should be like Aba Abdullah. Likewise, let us not only go into dentistry, which are all fantastic, and you can serve Islam through your money, which is a fantastic way of serving. You agree? Yet, if we also want to serve the religion in a more direct way, becoming Islamic professors is fantastic. Journalism and media. There are more direct ways of improving and changing things in this country. That's the second reason. And the third reason, which we touched upon yesterday, is to shake the conscience of the ummah. You know, one man, what he says, one historian, he puts it beautifully. He says, Imam, by taking women, he killed Yazid, and Yazid didn't kill him. Allahu Akbar. By Hussain, taking Zainab, taking Ruqayya, taking Kulthum, he killed Yazid, and Yazid didn't kill him. Why? Because people are now saying we're fighting females. Through this, he killed the agendas of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. That number two, once you see the message bigger than the messenger, only then can you sacrifice. So it's a result of the seeing the first principle. Number three, and very important, Imam showed us that he challenges the status quo. Let me tell you that before salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second one, for the love of Fatima to Zahra. A third one, to hasten the appearance of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Number three, what is it? Number three is Imam showed us that he will always challenge the status quo. It's very sad to say that many people, their character is built off what? His character is built off what's happening. They call it the chameleon-like behavior. You know the chameleon, you place it on this color, what's it going to turn? It's going to turn brown, most likely. You put it on a brown, red surface, whichever surface you place the chameleon on, yes, it turns to that color. Unfortunately, many people are reactionary. They're not proactionary. He's not proactive, he's reactive. What happens? I'm going to react. How many people are there in the world that initiate? They have become the Khomeinis, they have become the Mutahharis, they have become the Sadrs, they have become the Malcolm X and the Martin Luther Kings, yes? And I think there's something that needs to be corrected. Yesterday we mentioned that Khomeini was killed. One brother said, we thought you were referring to his son. That works, so yes, I was referring to his son. No, I wasn't. It was a reference to his father. Yeah, of course, his father. What? He faced opposition his whole life, yet he was not killed. He died a natural death. In other words, there are what? There are many who took the first step. You with me? They took that first step. And they have become the greats that we speak about, and the schools come and study their books. Meaning what? There's few out there who are proactive. Many are reactive, and that's one of the biggest problems in this world. Imam came and showed that questioning the status quo is fundamental in the character of a Muslim. You know, there is one man who says that if Benjamin Franklin came and said that if everybody's thinking the same, no one is thinking. Look at the words of Benjamin. He says if everybody's thinking the same, everybody has the same 2-3 thoughts always on their minds, and that's the only thoughts that always have, and they're propagating these 3 thoughts in their minds. And as Shaykh al-Wali, rahmatullahi alayhi, great servant of Ahlul Bayt in the Iraqi culture, says, he knows a few words and he chews it like it's a piece of gum. Yes? If everybody's thinking the same thing, then nobody's thinking. One other man, he comes and he mentions nice lines. He says that there are those who are always different. They refuse to conform, always challenging the status quo. Yes? He says you might not like them, you might like them, but there's one thing you can't do. You can never ignore them, because there is no one who changes the world unless the one who thinks he's crazy enough to do so. Yes? Only the one who's crazy enough to think he can change the world is eventually the one who tends to change it. He comes and he says that what? That they challenge the status quo. You know what Allah comes and says in the Quran? Allah says the majority is always wrong. If we are ones who always, how do you dress? Well, I dress how everybody else is going to dress. Why are your jeans ripped? Well, everybody else is doing it. Why are you smoking? Everybody else is doing it. Why do you curse, throwing 4-letter explicit through after every word? Everybody else is doing it. Everybody. What do you mean everybody else is doing it? Since when was the majority right? I asked the question, why do we think that the majority is always right? You know what Allah says? Allah says, وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ كَارِهُونَ. That's what Allah says. Allah says the majority are always what? They hate the truth. Now, why do people conform? There are a number of reasons. First reason, lack of knowledge. The first reason why people always conform is because there's a lack of substance within the mind. Therefore, he does what everybody else is doing. He goes left, I go left. He goes right, I go right. He sits, I sit. He eats, I eat. He laughs, I laugh. In other words, he becomes what? He becomes a robot. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he has a fantastic line which shows to us the disease of what? Ignorance. No knowledge, ignorance. He says people are of 3 types. Amma alimun rabbani. Number 1 who teaches. Number 2, muta'allimun ala sabili najat. Yes? One who learns, a student. If you're not a student, and if you're not a teacher, Ya Ali, what are you? Imam says, hamajun ru'ah. Scattered sheep. يَتْبَعُونَ كُلَّ نَاعِقْ وَيَمِيلُونَ مَعَ كُلِّ رِيحٍ. He says they follow every wind, and every shepherd, they run after him. He's like scattered sheep. That if you don't have a knowledge, an anchor, then you follow everybody and you do everything that everybody else is doing. That's the first reason, lack of knowledge. Number 2, and most importantly, lack of purpose. Well, how do you know when to do something? Because you have a recognition of the past, yes? You have understanding of the present, and you have a vision towards the future. How many times do you notice Allah Azza wa Jal is always speaking about your past? Oh people, realize that you أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُّبِينٌ. Surah Yasin, Allah says, how many times have we read Surah Yasin? Do we contemplate upon it? Allah comes and says, have you not realized that you are a drop of mingled substance? Now you act all arrogant, meaning know where you came from. Your present will be spiritual, because if you don't know your past, you walk around like you're Donald Trump. You agree with me? In other words, if you don't know your past, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen comes in, has fantastic lines. Of course, we have nothing against the Donald, but if he becomes president, I'm moving to India. In other words, there needs to be something made very clear. That your past, yes, you with me? Past is what Imam comes in and says, you came from the substance. You walk with feces in your stomach. You don't know when you're going to leave this world. Why do you walk around like you know everything? Allahu Akbar. Imam alayhi salam hits on the nail. He says, I'm surprised that insan, أَوَّلُهُ نُطْفَ وَآخِرُهُ جِيفًا. His first phase is a drop, and his last phase is a corpse which reeks of smell. Why does he walk with arrogance? Then number one, knowing my past. Yes. Number two, knowing my present. Being aware of current events, what's happening in the world, Bahrain, Syria, so on and so forth, as we mentioned yesterday. He wakes up worried about the status of the ummah. He's in touch with the marji'iyya, yes? The present and then the future. He knows there's a man who is to come, who is to spread the earth with peace and justice. And he builds, not only that, give me your attention on this vital point. He builds his life around that man. Imam Mahdi, brothers and sisters, if there's one thing we should realize, he shouldn't be something secondary in our lives. Why? Sadly, Imam has become secondary. Yes, he's there, place the hand on your head, alhamdulillah. No, my career should be based upon the Imam alayhi salam. My family, how I deal with my child. I'm not trying to build what? To build a general in the army of the US or in any country, yes? We're trying to build a general in the army of Sahib al-Zaman. Huh? When I deal with my child, he does something wrong. Some say, how can I deal with my child correctly? I'm not a father, but we have the teachings of Ahlul Bayt which are very clear. The hadith comes and says, firstly you're his friend, yes? Then you're his companion, then you let him go, yes? You discipline him. I don't know, some parents, I don't know, maybe he thinks that you discipline him in the first stage, you discipline him in the second stage, you discipline him in the third stage, in the fourth stage, whatever he does, I've seen people, he's 21 years old, his father is still screaming at him like he's a 3-year-old. This kinds of stuff, when you look at it, you might laugh and you may say, this is humorous and what can we do? No. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that that phase, you've left him alone. You know, he does something wrong, you slap him. 14, you slap him. 21, you slap him. You're trying to build a general in the army or a human being who represents Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. In other words, he has recognition of the future, and everything he does surrounds what? Surrounds that future. Number 4, and in the time that we have, laziness. Laziness is what? Laziness, you might know what's right, but you don't have the energy to do it. Laziness is a disease. Imam alayhi salam comes and says, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-kasal. I seek refuge in you from what? From laziness. That's the 4th. And the 5th reason, which is important, is because we cannot see past ourselves. And this is an important one. There's some people, he can't see 2 inches past his nose. He's worried about his stomach. He's worried about his food. He's worried about his safety. We said yesterday, Imam left because he didn't care about his safety. You know how Hussain became Hussain? Because Hussain didn't care about the body of Hussain. Yes. You know how Sadr became Sadr? Give me your attention on this vital point. You know how Sadr became Sadr? Because Sadr didn't care about the body of Sadr. They would call him, they would tell him, and it's on YouTube, you can find it. He calls and he asks, they ask him, Sayyidina, kayfa sahhatak? You find on YouTube, how is your health, Sayyidina? He says, there's no importance to my health. There's no importance to my health. Until that man, you say, Shaheed al-Sadr, who broke. So how can you come with such a reply? I don't care about my health. No, he's saying, I become a Sadr because I don't care about the value of Sadr. I give myself. I dissolved in Islam. As he speaks about Khomeini, he says, ذُوبُ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ كَمَا ذَابَ Khomeini fil Islam. He says, dissolve in Islam as Khomeini dissolved dissolve in Khomeini as Khomeini dissolved in Islam. Beautiful line, which he says, yes, until they would come. You know how they dealt with Shaheed al-Sadr? Look how the man looked past himself until his last moments, just like his grandfather, Abu Abdullah. He said the Shaheed, of course, when they would torture him, they come out of the room, they don't know was it Saddam who was torturing Shaheed or Shaheed who was torturing Saddam. Shaheed comes out smiling, relaxed. Saddam comes out and his agents come out what? Crying with red faces and beating hearts. He would come to him, he would do what? He would firstly violate his blessed sister Bint al-Huda, you know. They would implant, as one would say, pins and screws into the head of Shaheed al-Sadr. Yes. While he would do such a thing, he would say, wait. They tell him, what do you want? He would take off his turban. He would say, that's for Rasulullah. Now do whatever you want to Shaheed al-Sadr. I mean, if you want an example of a man who didn't care about himself, a man who realized that to indeed question the status quo, I need to look past myself. At the end of the day, it's not just about my family and my kids and my money. Yes, as we said, no, the safety of the ummah is something to be put in perspective. That's number 3, the status quo. And number 4, and of the utmost importance indeed, is that the Imam gave a universal no. Okay? Let me tell you that before your salawat. The universal no. Give me your attention here. When Imam alayhi salam told Allah, or he told Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'natullahi alayhi, he told him no. That no is vital. Why? Because Imam made a no. This is the fourth lesson we need to take from the no of Hussain. What's the name of this lecture? Why Hussain said no. Yes? Imam alayhi salam, he would turn to Yazid and he would tell him no. Yes? But that no is so valuable. Why? Because that no was a no for all ages. Give me your attention here. When Imam told him, what did he say? I told you, man, you should pay attention to the wording. What did the Imam alayhi salam say? He didn't say Hussain isn't giving bay'ah to Yazid. Didn't say that. Imam was very careful on picking his words. He said, a man like me will never give bay'ah to a man like him. What's the Imam saying? Imam saying anybody who is Hussaini will never shake the hand of a Yazidi. Yes? Imam is saying anyone who has love towards haqq like I do will never submit to the falsehood of batil like Yazid did. Imam is saying, look, when he explained the words towards Yazid, he said, we are the family of progeny, Allah began with us, Allah ended with us, and then he explained Yazid. He said, Yazid is a drinker of alcohol. Yazid is indecent. Yazid is immodest. What is Imam saying? Imam saying that anybody who hates Yazid also shouldn't drink alcohol. That's what the Imam is saying at its core. He said, when I said no to you, not just to Yazid, he says no to Yazidism. Yazid died. The man is there in his grave with 2 people visiting him every year, yes? The man is there in his grave, yet Yazidism is alive, and never has it been more alive. Saddam is gone, but Saddamism is always there. Muawiyah is gone, but Muawiyism always exists. When Imam said no, it was a universal no. He wasn't just saying no to the son of Muawiyah. He was saying no to all batil. What's the point? The point is that we likewise, like the Imam alayhi salam said no, it's our duty to water the no. Yes? Imam planted it years ago. Who's going to water the no of Aba Abdullah? It's you and I. When I see batil, will I speak up? When I see what's happening in the world, will I post something on my Facebooks and my emails, or will I simply crack jokes? When I see somebody acting arrogant, am I going to speak out to him? When I see somebody stealing, will I tell him no? It's to that extent. When I see somebody speaking or lying to somebody and I shake my head to him, that right there is your وَمِثْلِ لَا يُبَايِعُ مِثْلَهُ. How are you going to apply it in your life? Yes? How are we going to apply it? Otherwise, for the Imam simply to come and say no and keep on going. No. It was a no for all ages, and it was a no for all times. That we need to water the no of Aba Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. Wherever we see evil, we should be one to speak up. Wherever we see batil, we should be one to speak up. Whenever we see somebody stealing, we should speak out to him. Why? Because we water the no of Hussain. Why is it that you would see how many times Rasulullah would be sitting there, ask him who's the most beloved of people to you? And say, your ashab, no, your family, no. He would say, people who come after me who will never see me. Yes? Why would Rasulullah say such things? Are you with me or no? Why would he say such things? He's saying such things because he's making it clear that those who come after me, yet never see me and always believed in me, are the ones who will keep my message and my teachings alive. That the Imam said no, we must water that no. That's why the Imam alayhi salam would give everything he had. That's why the Imam alayhi salam was able to put his life on the line. Because he realized, for me to question the status quo, I need to see past myself. For me to indeed see the message bigger than myself, I need to give my family members. For me to see, to keep alive the universal no, I need to put my life on the line. And indeed for me to sacrifice, I need to go to Karbala, yes? If there is any proof that the Imam was a man who constantly put his life on the line, then he took with him his 6-month-old baby. I mean, there's no better example to give you. A man who takes with him his women, that's understandable. Yet the 6-month-old baby telling me, oh Hussein, why are you taking him with you? Yes? It is said that Zainab alayha salam, she would come to the Imam. She tells him, "Oh Imam, quench the thirst of your 6-month-old." Imam alayhi salam says, "We don't have any water, O Zainab. What should we do?" She tells him, "Take him to the opposition and see what they have to say." The Imam alayhi salam takes Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam to the opposition. He raises Ali to the sky and he asks them if there is any guilt. To the young ones, to the old ones, then tell me, what is the guilt of this 6-month-old baby? It is said that the opposition, they cut into 2 parts. Take your mind to Karbala. This is the last day we have with Abu Abdullah al-Hussain. Tomorrow, Imam farewells us and he farewells his Shia. Let us savor these moments. I tell you, in a few weeks down the line, you will see Muharram is gone, and years, 300 plus days, we need to wait till it comes back. Let us savor these moments and let us value these tears that come down. They'll speak on the day of judgment. Fatima is honored and made happy by these tears that will drop. Yes? Imam alayhi salam takes him to the army of Ibn Ziyad. He raises him. He says, if there is guilt for the elderly, then what is the guilt of this 6-month-old baby? It is said that the opposition, they cut into 2 parts. One said, don't give him anything. He'll grow up and he'll kill us. One said, give him, he's just a 6-month-old baby in the hand of Abu Abdullah. It is said that Ibn Ziyad would turn to who? To Harmala. He would tell him, "Oh Harmala, cut the dispute, cut it." He told him, "How should I cut it?" He told him, "Kill the baby within the hands of Abu Abdullah." Ya Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Forgive us, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. Forgive us, Ya Fatima, for mentioning these lines. We know you're present and we know they harm you. It is said that Karbala, Allahu Akbar, he was the professional spear and arrow thrower. In other words, the archer in the army of Ibn Ziyad. Karbala would take out an arrow from his back. You know Mukhtar, when he captured Karbala, he told him, "Tell me of the arrows that you threw and which one hurt you most." He said, "I threw one into the chest of Abu Abdullah. I threw one at Abu Fadl al-Abbas. I threw one at the tents." He says that there's one that really hurts me until this day. I feel the pain of that arrow. What was it? He says, "I looked at the neck of Ali al-Asghar. It was white and it was shining. I can see it in the hand of Abu Abdullah." He said, "What kind of arrow did you use?" He said, "I used simple arrows for the other 3. For this one, I took out the 3-pronged arrow from my back, which we use to kill camels." Harmala takes out the arrow from his back. He aims it at the neck within the hands of Abu Abdullah. He throws the arrow and it lands into that fragile neck. How many of you have infant children? When you touch him, you see his neck, it's very fragile, very weak. Anything can break it, let alone a 3-pronged arrow. Allahu Akbar. He throws the arrow into the neck of Abu Abdullah. The arrow falls into his neck. Harmala says, "I saw Ali take out his hands from his blanket while flapping them like a butchered bird." He gave Abu Abdullah a look. I say, "How did you handle the look of Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam? A look which told you, oh father, you promised me water to quench my thirst, not drops of blood." Imam alayhi salam, he takes the blood of Ali and throws it to the sky, saying, "Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban." Oh Allah, accept from us this sacrifice. Imam says, Sadiq alayhi salam says, no blood came down, telling him your sacrifice has been accepted. Imam alayhi salam takes him back to the tents. Sukaina comes to Abu Abdullah. She tells him, "Father, possibly you brought some drops of water so we can drink as well." He turns around and listens to the lines. He says, "Sukaina, take Ali from my hands." Sukaina tells him, "What is this, father?" He says, "They killed your son Ali, ya Sukaina. Allah aid your heart, oh Abu Abdullah." This isn't a tragedy. It is said that when his mother would go in the middle of the night and her chest was dry, so
she waited till she had something within her chest. She would go to the sands of Karbala. When she would see the baby, she would speak to him with the arrow in his neck. Imagine this. She holds the baby up, telling him, my son Ali, I didn't have anything in my chest. Now I do. Drink from me, oh Ali. One last line before we leave. It is said when Imam Zayn al-Abidin came back from the lands of Syria, Kufa, he would come and he would begin to bury Al-Abbas. He buried Qasim until he buried the Imam. He wanted to place Ali Asghar in another hole, yet he heard a voice coming from the neck of Abba Abdullah telling him, Idfin Rabi'i bijanibi, bury the 6-month-old next to me. And that's why when Sahib al-Zaman comes out, he would go to Karbala. Yes, he opens up the shrine of the Imam. He sees a 6-month-old baby wrapped around like a little toy on the chest of Imam. He grabs that baby, he holds him to the sky, and he said, oh Allah, what is the guilt of this 6-month-old baby?
Matam Hussain, ya Hussain, ya Hussain.